You telling me I went out and got a bald cap just so that fool dies in this episode? It's not even the most heartbreaking death of this episode, too. Hello, my Chucky fans. We are now on episode 6 of season 2 of the Chucky TV series titled He Is Risen Indeed, where, man, the stakes are not only continuing to get higher and higher for this show, but we lost a crucial member that all of us were definitely falling for this season. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heartbroken Chucky fans in the comment section today, but we also have so much more to wonder how they're going to end this season. And that's exactly what I'll be talking about here in this spoiler review, breaking down the episode, pointing out some Easter eggs you might have missed, but I just want to hear from you guys. We are now in the final stretches. We have 2 episodes left of this season. What do you think of it so far? Can you guess where it's kind of going? Even though this season has a little bit more hiccups than the previous one, I'm still fully on board with the story they're developing because that does have my attention. But man, there were choices made in episode 6 that made me go, really? This is where we're going with it now. Okay. But first I want to go ahead and thank the sponsor of today's video, and that's Casetify. Casetify is a phone case company that not only has some of the coolest designs out there, but is also some of the most durable cases on the market. And thanks to their new EcoShock technology, they've increased their protection and durability even more, protecting your precious phone. They're also a company that works with over 300 different artists, so you're bound to find a phone case that suits your style. They also offer customizable options on their website, so for me, I definitely had to get one with the words 3C on it. But if customizing isn't something you want, I picked me out a design here that reminded me of just some retro gaming, some of my favorite consoles in a vending machine. Like, I just love the design of this case. I'm a big fan also of how much they collaborate with other IPs. I went with the Toy Story case because, come on, who doesn't love Toy Story? And look, if you don't want to believe me that these cases are not only awesome looking, but very durable, I'm gonna drop my own phone to test it for you. Good. So guys, do yourself a favor, go ahead and use the link in my description or go to caseify.com/3cfilms to get 15% off your order. Treat yourself to an awesome phone case, or heck, holidays are coming up. These make perfect gifts. You're not only treating yourself to a great product, but you're supporting my channel in the process. Thank you again to Caseify for sponsoring today's video. But starting off here with episode 6 of the Chucky TV series from season 2, we get a little bit of a recap or further glimpse to the way the season started, showing Andy Barkley driving off a cliff with a van full of Chuckies, kind of showing us how he managed to escape. Bald Chucky, or as he'll be known in the future, Colonel Chucky, decided to keep him alive and torture him for the entire year. And I don't know if it was just me, but I was kind of dying at all the Chucky dolls just flying in the air from the explosion. Had me kind of giggling. Bringing us now to present day, where Colonel Chucky is a lot different than when we remember him, and props to you guys in the comment section for pointing it out last episode because it completely went over my bald head. This bald Colonel Chucky is taking inspiration from Marlon Brando's character of Apocalypse Now, and I kind of wish you guys didn't point this out because now I clearly hear Brad Dourif trying to do his best Marlon Brando impression. Surprised he didn't bust out the line of, "I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse." And that'll be kind of one of my gripes that I'll talk about later on in this episode. Even though they do some really cool and chilling things with Colonel Chucky, I felt they kind of jumped the shark a little bit with him at the end. But focusing on this specific moment, just knowing that Colonel Chucky for a year has been slicing away at Andy's leg, cooking it up and eating it, that is chilling, horrifying, and just disgusting. Good Chucky stuff I've been wanting to see. It's also here where we get a couple of lines revealing to us the history between Chucky and Dr. Mixter, which we are all wondering, how are they connected? And Colonel Chucky here basically mentions, "I'm not 8 years old anymore and you're not my therapist." Letting it be known that's the relationship here. Whenever Chucky was in the boys' home growing up, this was the therapist he was seeing. And when this was first revealed, I thought maybe this was like a Joker and Harley Quinn situation where Chucky was able to kind of manipulate this Dr. Mixter and turn her evil. Looks like it's going to be the complete opposite. We'll get to that later on. But with them leaving the room, we see Lexi and Devin enter in to try and rescue Andy. And I gotta mention, I love the creepy imagery of the Chucky dolls all about, whether this was Colonel Chucky's doing or just leftover doll bodies from that explosion. Just really, really great scary imagery, and that's what I want in this series, just some scary imagery. I was scared for a moment that just the way we got a brainwashed good guy Chucky, that maybe in a weird way we got brainwashed Andy here that was slightly evil, but looks like he was just hesitant to anyone's touch from a year of being tortured. This then brings us to the title card sequence that is just filled with bald-headed Chucky dolls. My head should be up there. From here is where the show takes us to a scene where we have the sister still believing that Buff Chucky is the reincarnation of God, willing to do whatever he asks of him, which I guess also includes rubbing Chucky's feet for free?
Perfect.
At the same time that is going on, Father Bryce is kind of pissed off that so many kids are seeming to leave campus, with Trevor missing and Lexi and Devin having gone off into the woods. He initiates a lockdown on the school. And I gotta tell you guys, as much as I dislike the character of Father Bryce, not because Devin Saw was doing a bad job or anything, but just because that is his character, an annoyingly super religious person that refuses to believe anything anyone else informs him of, in these situations, I was like sympathizing with the dude. Like, he was just sick of seeing a Chucky doll pop up left and right of all shapes, sizes, and haircuts. It's one of the aspects of the show that has remained so compelling for me, is the way Don Mancini is able to weave in this religious undertone that mirrors a lot of the themes he's trying to bring up. For example, a really great moment in that is whenever Lexi and Devin finally come back with Andy, and Father Bryce is just completely against the idea of someone who appears to be a homeless man just bringing in these children and providing him with a shower and meal, but the kids and the sister quoting scripture to him, leaving him speechless. Like, that is just some of the great stuff I'm loving in the show. Bringing us again to more flashback scenes involving Seed of Chucky, where we see Glenn / Glenda having these dreams about their murders. I did think it was kind of lame of Glenn just to show their twin the photo of the doll through text message. I also feel like Glenda didn't have that much of a reaction to it. I wonder if that's maybe because the doll wasn't all glammed out the way Glenda would do it, and that's the face they most recognize with that body. So seeing this version of the Glenn doll didn't do much for Glenda. But we find Glenda in the room with Kyle and Nika, still trying to work out this plan to remove what we now know is Prime Chucky out of Nika. That's something else we also learned this episode, is the Chucky inside Nika is 100% the original OG, what they're calling Prime Chucky. I brought that up last week in my breakdown, and so many of you guys were fighting me on that, saying that's not the OG Chucky in there. OG Chucky is the severed head with the stitches and the missing face, when a lot of people forget that that Chucky doll was exploded and gotten rid of last season. But either way, I'm glad that the show is acknowledging that there is an OG original Chucky, and what we're seeing the Colonel do with Buff Chucky, Good Chucky, is kind of like a side quest, or just Chucky's with a different ideology. And speaking of the explosion from last season, we also find out that Kyle didn't walk away without a scratch. She lost a year. And that really does suck for Kyle, but I do like the bit of consequences they're adding here, because no way she could have walked out without a scratch from that explosion. Kyle, however, here is in need of wanting to talk to OG Chucky just to sort things out or move forward with the plan. And I'm just never going to complain when it comes to Fiona Dorff channeling her father and just becoming Chucky, because she does such a fantastic job with it. And I was also very scared in this moment for Kyle, because I felt like Glenda could have easily have killed Kyle. But in my mind, I feel like Glenda wants to play the long game and feels like they need Kyle to get whatever it is they need done. Betraying Kyle would mean having Andy against them, and Andy right now is proving to be a formidable foe, and you can even see how much it bothers Glenda to kind of disappoint their father. Back now at the school, while they're in lockdown, Jake and Devin having a conversation about how they're going to handle going after Chucky. They devise a plan saying that they're stronger in numbers, and if that they all attack Chucky at once, they're bound to defeat him. This is also where we start to get the major red flags that Good Chucky definitely is not Good Chucky. Bringing us now to what is the last 15 minutes of this episode that kind of was all over the place for me. Some good stuff in here and some stuff that I was like, oh, okay. Starting off with this scene involving Colonel Chucky versus Buff Chucky, I was kind of wanting to see an epic battle go down, but I guess since we already got to see that with Good Chucky versus Buff Chucky, I actually really enjoyed the route they went with here, and having Colonel Chucky defeat him with strategy, brain over muscle. It even made Colonel Chucky to me very terrifying, so sadistic, and just like a version of Chucky I was hoping was gonna stick around to the end of the season. While Buff Chucky dying sucks, I felt like they've played out all they can do with this version of Chucky, so I really didn't mind seeing him go. But then that brings us to Colonel Chucky wanting to go after the group, and it was really strange because he was just basically quoting movies. Revealing a pair of scissors to be in the back of his head, and then just sending him off with further cementing the homage to Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now with quoting, "The horror, the horror." That's some of those See to Chucky-isms that is present in season 2 that I'm just not the biggest fan of. I know I seem like a party pooper to you guys and stuff, but I'm just being honest with you. The campy, cheesy nature of See to Chucky isn't my favorite version of Chucky. So there's a slight disappointment when they introduce something that could be an actually cool, terrifying, scary version of Chucky, this bald-headed colonel that is not only a cannibal, has this necklace of ears. Although a little goofy doing this Marlon Brando impression, it was starting to work for me after the way he killed Buff Chucky, and then you just take him out in a comedic fashion. Okay, either way, we knew at some point this version of Chucky was not going to last. It is not prime original Chucky, and prime OG Chucky is what always will be the only Chucky we need. Having then Andy Barclay step into the room, immediately seeing a Chucky doll in front of him and doing what he does best, wanting to slash him, only getting stopped by Jake. Another great moment here by Alex Vincent. I love when they include Andy in this season, and I'm hoping we get more of him in these next couple of episodes, but him just mirroring those words that Devin said, there is no such thing as a good Chucky. You gotta listen to Andy Barclay when he says stuff like that, and man, should we have listened. But before Andy can finish the job, Dr. Mixter steps in with a gun, demanding the Chucky doll be given to her. This is then where the show decides to make a really big choice in the background origin of Chucky that I'm wondering how fans are gonna take. Dr. Mixter here explains further to us that she wasn't only the therapist that was trying to oversee Chucky when he was 7 years old, but it looks like she was a psychotic therapist that didn't even want to help any of her patients and was just hell-bent on turning them evil, noticing that young Charles Lee Ray had a silver lining of innocence and a chance to be a good person, and she just decided for the fun of it to, nah, let's take away that innocent and play into you being more evil. Basically saying, we can thank us having an evil Chucky all because of Dr. Mixter. These were some of the things I was worried about with season 1 of the Chucky TV series because they were promising us a lot of backstory into the life of Charles Lee Ray before he was in the doll. And we have seen this numerous times with a lot of our horror icons. When you start peeling back the layers on their origin and you start revealing every little detail for why they are the way they are, you're bound to make a choice that the fans are not always going to agree with. And I thought in season 1 they actually handled it really well, even though they gave us a lot of backstory into Chucky's life, not playing into the idea that because he was bullied or he grew up with terrible parents, his environment, or some catalytic thing drove him to be evil. He was just essentially born evil and killed his own mom for fun. That didn't ruin the legacy and everything involved with Chucky, but now they're kind of changing it up and saying here, Chucky had a chance to be good. Chucky had a chance to be an innocent person like this good guy Chucky doll. But thanks to this therapist that is just introduced out of nowhere, she was bored of this good Chucky and thought, let's make you evil.
When I first met you, when you were 7, there was a strain of innocence in you, despite your more interesting qualities. Frankly, as your therapist, I found it boring. I did my best to stamp it out of you.
Okay, however, we have 2 more episodes and maybe there's more to the backstory and I'd love to hear that. Something else that happened though in these final moments that I was finally anticipating here is Father Bryce just witnessing this Chucky doll actually is alive. I wish we could have played into that moment a little more, but just seeing Father Bryce suggest sort of like an exorcism with Chucky, I think is perfectly in line with his character. Because yeah, we might laugh at that idea, but I mean, who's to say exorcism type stuff doesn't work on voodoo? Both are supernatural things, are they not? Maybe it actually works. We get a fight between Dr. Mixter and Andy going down the stairs. I don't think Andy Barclay is dead. He just seems to be knocked out at the bottom of the stairs. I saw some fans complaining that how did this old woman overpower Andy? You gotta remember, the guy was on bed rest for an entire year with a weak leg. He's malnourished. It makes perfect sense that he got overpowered by a little old lady. But then even more heartbreaking here, sweet innocent Nadine coming to the rescue of good little Chucky, only for that doll to finally prove itself what we all knew: there is no such thing as a good Chucky, chucking her out the window and killing her. This was definitely heartbreaking, even though I called this as soon as they introduced Nadine. Just because of how sweet and innocent they were playing her up, it seemed like they were setting her up for a tragic death, and it hit. I thought this was very sad, and it's only going to create a more interesting dynamic within the group, because you know now Devin is going to be pissed at Jake. This is honestly all Jake's fault. The way he truly wanted to believe that Chucky was good, if they just have killed this doll from the beginning, this would not have happened to Nadine. And I kind of can't wait to see the moments that Lexi and Devin are about to have with Jake, saying, What do you have to say for yourself? Even more effed up the way Chucky continues to play into this good guy character once Jake shows up. These are some of the strong moments in the show that outweigh some of my nitpicks and gripes I have with some of these episodes. Cause come on, just this imagery of Nadine's death I think is heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time in a weird way. But again guys, those are just my thoughts with episode 6. I'm really curious to hear what you guys are thinking and the way everything is leading up. I can't wait to see how Tiffany and Glenn are gonna add into this mess once they start meeting up with the rest of the group. It for sure seems like OG Chucky is somehow gonna end up in the body of good guy Chucky, because as of right now I think that's the only alive Chucky doll that's left. But you guys go ahead and let me know down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Bald Chucky Boy. Take care.